All right. Hello, everybody on LinkedIn and YouTube, and thanks for joining us for this webinar on cybersecurity for architecture firms. I'm Brian Murray, top tinkerer at Agile Networks, and we're here to go into the important aspects and some of the other ones that may be a bit hyperbolic about cybersecurity. So we're going to try to demystify this a little bit for firms. So there's also a chat function. I'll try to get to those time permitting. We do have a number of people who are joining this as a requirement, so we're going to try to keep this brief, but educational and fun. So I'll just keep my digressions to a minimum. Who is Agile? We've been around for about 20 years, and we only focus on architecture firms. So that's what we do. That gives us a bit of a specialized view of what is important for architecture firms. How is their technical burden in cybersecurity different from, say, medical office or a financial firm or someone who takes credit cards, things like that. So there's a bit of a different burden for architecture firms. So here's the general guideline. Again, this is an overview. We're not going to get really into the weeds on very difficult stuff. Just things that a firm should know. So this is overall. This is not just end users. This is not just the operations manager, the CFO. This is what everybody should basically know. And we might get a little specialized into some use cases. So, introduction to cybersecurity, assessing your cybersecurity risks, developing a strategy, and some best practices. And at the end, we'll have some takeaway and some chat if you want. I may have mentioned this already, but there is about a 30-second delay. So if you do send something into the chat or anything, and I don't respond to it, give me a little bit. And if it's a particularly good question, I'll try to add it to this feed. So as we said, introduction to cybersecurity. So what's different and what's new? What's happening these days for cybersecurity that is different from the last few years? I would say previously in the last 10 years ago, when ransomware started ramping up, our reaction was a little bit different. We had to look at backups are still king, but once we had backups and we didn't really worry about some of this cybercrime, then they started going after the backups. So then we had to do a different approach. And then the criminals would expose your files, like they would make them public. So then you have to have another review of how are you going to kind of mitigate these types of attacks. And then that has kind of morphed, that hasn't been as profitable anymore. So they've changed much more into phishing and spear phishing and ishing of many different variations. There's a lot. So these are the things we're going to go after. And it really comes down to some patching, some training, and some policies, and you'll be fine. You'll be great. So not so much to to worry about until they come up with the new thing. So as I said, so we have phishing attacks. Everyone has seen these. They are getting pretty sophisticated. A lot of these really do look like legitimate emails from coworkers or vendors that you're working with. Our policy is if you are even 1% suspect of anything, just send it to support. Support has, whether it's our IT firm or your own, or somebody who is the arbiter, of these technical issues. What we usually have is, if we do get phishing attempts, we can we can look at the meta files and see, is this legitimate? Where is this coming from? And we also have sandboxes that we can open this up and see if there's actually a payload of any sort. Not something end users should really worry about. Just go ahead, send this to your technical arbiter. That's really the best policy for any of these. You can put in some software that actually blocks the payload. That's pretty common these days to have those in place. That's usually attached to Microsoft Office in the cloud, Office 365. And it's pretty simple just to set that up and have that working in your favor. And then, so we can set up all of this technology in training, great. But what happens if they still get through? This is something that's a little different for architecture firms. Who are your clients? Do you have any government clients? Do you have any NDAs in your contracts that you're required to have infrastructure in a certain way? This does affect your backups. Some places don't allow you to have public cloud backup, so you have to invest in your own infrastructure, and that usually is fine, because places that dictate that usually they're pretty sizable contracts. And look over your contracts to see what are the penalties and liabilities that you have as a firm if these things do happen. So again, all of these things you should probably just take a little bit of time and know what's in all of your contracts. Architecture firms are not, they're not HIPAA, they're not FINRA. There's a lot of industry specific things that you're not liable for. You don't have, you're probably not taking credit cards. You're probably not as worried about IP, but you still should at least know what's going on. So we do have some definitions here and some terms. I'm going to try to stay away from too much jargon, other than some phishing, some social engineering, and some other things that you don't need to know what it is. You just need to know what's happening. So, assessing the risks. Here we go. It's pretty easy these days to keep yourself pretty secure. Patching software, having recent computers, like things not over 5 years old. Hardware and software firms do kind of stop sending security patches when things get older, and that does become an attack vector. But if you have modern software, modern hardware, and you keep it patched, IT firm on the back end should be doing this. You should be fine. We are asked if we're doing penetration testing, and this isn't terribly relevant for architecture firms. Really, if you have a modern firewall, you keep your passwords up to date, you have modern hardware and software, it's fine. You're absolutely fine. A metaphor I like to use is you're putting frosting on frosting on frosting on this cupcake, and you can throw as much technology and resources at these things as possible. But if anything, these attacks and having exposure to them does kind of inoculate end users to these type of things. So you do want them to see what's happening on these attacks. So when they do happen, really the people being the software is your best bet. And that is where most attacks do come from. It's actual end users thinking that this is a legitimate email, being social engineered, being phished, being spear phished. So having security training like this, having some phishing campaigns, and simple policies for financials and guidelines for how to handle emails when they come from the C-suite in your firm, or even coworkers of any sort. Having a simple policy in place that everybody knows, 1 or 2 sentences. Just check. If anybody immediately has to get a Walmart card or a Target gift card, or people laugh like, that doesn't have, we just had it the other day. A new hire ended up at a firm, and within the first week, he got phished, and he went to Walmart and got $500 worth of gift cards. So it still does happen. So best just to have this policy in place. It only takes a minute to go over that with your staff. So so this is the it's off on the StreamYard is covering that. Let me find this. Sorry. Cyber responsibility assessment in architecture firms. Oh, crap. So I wish that StreamYard wasn't blocking that. Anyways, so yeah, find the attack vectors. Who are the people who are most likely to be attacked, and what are the systems and what are the vulnerabilities? Run some penetration campaigns. Pretty simple to do. There are a lot out there that are fairly expensive, and I don't feel that architecture firms, at least our firms, require those. There is on the back end of Office 365, there are some Defender licenses. They cost just a few dollars a month. You can turn those on and run some campaigns. Are these the best campaigns? No, they're not the best. But it really gives you a great baseline of how good your staff is, how aware your staff is. So we've been running these. Our recent cadre of firms that we've been running this with, it's been quite surprising. The firm that some of the people are on this on this webinar now, we got 0 hits. Nobody was fooled. Which is fantastic. We ran it for a couple of days. Not one person fell for the phishing attempts. So that was great. Another firm that we ran this with, the people who we were just surprised. We were just very surprised at the people who did fall for the phishing attempts. But it gave us a training opportunity. So we could see everything. So these people had received the phishing campaign, opened the phishing campaign, clicked on the links, which, it went to our secure link, and it just says, oh no, you've fallen for our little ploy. And then they tried to delete the email. So that's not what we want. So what we want is, if you do get caught, do reach out to one of your coworkers or somebody in operations, or reach out to support. Like, we want this to be shown to everyone. If a actual phishing campaign is happening on your firm and you are being attacked, share that information. Don't hide that because it's only going to make things more difficult. Even if you do click on a link and it seems malicious, and then you try to hide that, it could have sent a payload. And what you don't want is to have that running in the background for hours, because these payloads come out, they attack, then they go lateral. So then they start going through your entire system and then start infecting others. So the faster we can get on that, the better. That being said, most of the software, modern software that is in place, will find these and will remediate these very quickly. And we'll just get an alert that, hey, a thing happened. This person might need a little more training. So, which is great. That's really what you want. Minimal expenditure to the client, high impact. Contract reviews, as I mentioned earlier, this is really incredibly important. Just to know what is your exposure, just have this in place before an incident happens. In fact, you should probably do this every time, not only when you have a new contract, of course, but when you have a cybersecurity insurance renewal. Look at your contracts, make sure that things line up, because you don't want to lose a client or reputation because of something like this. And that's one of the biggest things. I think firms kind of accept if they do get attacked, that's, this oh no moment, and then it's, well, how quickly can you come back up? Even in the old day, not the old days, sorry. Even back when Sandy struck many years ago, the rest of the country was empathetic for like a day or two. And then we started getting emails that, what's going on? Why aren't people back up? Why, like people in California, they couldn't understand why the architecture firms weren't up and running when all of downtown was underwater. So, yeah, your response time is very important. So, developing a strategy. So, this is I found this many places over and over and over. It seemed high, but this was reiterated in several technical magazines. So 90% of data breaches due to human error, meaning you're using the same password, or it's a phishing campaign and you got caught in that, or you somehow convinced IT to turn off MFA, or new staff, or actually when people leave, if IT is not told that they have left, that's a huge security breach there. You have no idea what's going on, and the company is fully exposed when they don't turn those off. And it's a simple thing. It's a really simple thing to turn off access on the background. Hugely important. So training really is the way. As a tech, I like to solve things with technology, but there's really only so much you can do. The table is set. Some security is in place. Training is the way to get clients secure or more secure. So here's kind of the security life cycle. It would be nice to start with assess and then plan, implement, train, review, and respond. But it's usually respond. It's usually responding to an incident, and then that kicks off this circle as well. So this does kind of reiterate and reaffirm some of the topics from the previous slides. So to assess, go through and just see what are your attack vectors. It's probably not going to be the networking or the hardware or software if those are up to date and patched. So see what you can do with training, see what you can do with campaigns, security campaigns, and then have some policies in place for how to act. There's a number of new campaigns that are happening that we're seeing with social engineering and spear phishing. So phishing is just sending an email to try to compromise someone. Spear phishing is a targeted attack. So you're really going after the CFO, the C-suite, somebody in accounts receivable. It's terribly annoying, but clever what some of them are doing. the most recent one that we're seeing that, again, it just comes down to education is firms are sending fake invoices to the CEO usually, and saying, hey, here's the invoice for that thing. It's past due by 30 days. Can you just let me know the stuff? Very, very under the radar. And then the CEO will forward that to accounts receivable, and then they got you. Really just having a few things in place. And sorry, just to go back to that for a second, we've also seen that same, because we've seen this, that same CEO, now that he has shown that he's easily, well, he can be fooled, or he's too busy to kind of really look at his emails coming through. They keep hitting him. So he got on the list, and now they're hitting him harder. Which this was caught, which is fine, and it is kind of inoculating the accounts receivable team. So we thank them for that. But that's one of the new attacks that are coming through, and these things look very legitimate. So especially firms that have, hundreds of vendors, this is a difficult task for people in charge of finances. So again, training, just keep your ears up, and you should be fine. It keeps coming back to training. I know I sound like a broken record. It does keep coming back to training. If this is something that your firm can do at minimum yearly, I mean, a little goes a long way, but quarterly would be better to have these campaigns of various vectors just to keep people aware. So, and we have some of these as well that we send to people just to see if we can fake them, and because there's very little consequence, and it just does kind of reset their heightened security. So that seems to work very well. Moving along. Yes, so we're kind of retreading the same ground a little bit. Security controls. Let's see if I can move this a little. I'll just take myself out for a minute. Setting up the security controls, keeping them patched again. Implementing DLP, that is, so DLP is data loss prevention. And these are, this is some software that you can add on the back end that's a little, let's say, extra aware of if it sees things that look like a social security number, or it looks like a credit card number, or a ACH, routing information. So it'll flag it. It won't block it, but it'll flag it. And that seems to work really nicely for firms that the system is just giving you an extra nudge of, can you take a look at this? Like, is this real? Also, if you are sending things like that over email, it's kind of a big no-no. You really, even though most email is encrypted end-to-end these days, it's not a great idea, because once anyone gets compromised, they can go through your entire mailbox really quickly, and they are really going after that type of information. So they'll collect people that you email, and then they'll start mimicking those people. So just something to watch out for. Again, user training, MFA, multi-factor. I know it's the bane of people's existence. Things are getting better. There is light at the end of the tunnel for people who really don't like MFA. This is some back-end stuff that needs to be done. And we can, on a later slide, you'll see this. We can attach this to your phone. It is still, in fact, multi-factor, but it's passwordless. You do not need to log in. So we can attach some systems that some are single sign-on, some are passwordless, some are pass keys. It really depends on what works for the firms. Some firms, they really just want MFA, and it's fine. Get that text, and yes, you have to put it in. And as long as you only have to do that once a day, maybe twice, it's fine. Others require a reset every hour. That's quite a bit onerous on staff. They really don't like that. And then we recommend in those cases going into pass keys, passwordless, other SSO options for security reasons. Because if people stop using it and start looking for workarounds, that's a really large gaping security hole. And security policies. Again, getting those Walmart cards, emails, and others like that. There should always be a policy of just get on the phone. Just get on the phone. I don't know who's so busy that if they get a strange email regarding finances, they can't just get on the phone. Again, case by case, there are some people who have hundreds of vendors, but if you're not getting hundreds of attacks. So if you do get something that does get flagged by DLP, or you do get an alert from your email that this is not somebody who you regularly emailed, like this is unusual, and they're asking you to change your ACH records, call them. Yeah, and you hopefully have a prior relationship with this person. You know what their voice sounds like. You know what or jump on a web meeting and get this person. Call them directly and just corroborate what's going on. It'll save you a lot of heartache because if you do get phished, if you do get attacked, the other person wouldn't know. So if you're an architecture firm and someone is faking, so you're, ABC architecture firm, and abd.com sends one of your engineers or vendors or consultants, an invoice and say, oh yeah, hey, pay me over here. You're not going to know. You're not going to know that until you're 60, 90 days out and you have this in accounts receivable, and then you call them and they've paid that, and that money's gone. So easy just to get on the phone early with these firms. If you do start getting anything strange, you've only got a couple of days to rectify it. So speed is the issue in these ones. So here are some terms that there's not many technical terms that I feel people should know, but here's a few, and we have touched on some of these. So MFA, multi-factor authentication. So this is an umbrella statement for many different. I'm gonna put myself back on. Many different things. So whether that's the text or the Microsoft Authenticator or passwordless, or they also have these USB keys that you can plug into your computer, and it just requires someone, like it doesn't even have to be you, someone to touch it and just authenticate and say, yes, this computer is doing the thing, and here's how you can be authenticated. All of these can be compromised. All of these you can get around, but it's increasingly difficult. So inexpensive, highly secure alternatives with MFA are highly recommended. I know it's a pain to sign in that text file, get that text, but for most firms, it's in your cyber insurance policy. And if you do not do that, and if they do an audit and you are found that you've turned that off, that's not good. And I sure I don't need to go into why that isn't good. So phishing, spear phishing, and then there's multiple iterations of other types of phishing. So targeted emails meant to either get your password, get access. They often are just trying to get you to log in again. So they'll send you a fake Dropbox link or something like that. It'll take you to a Microsoft site, and usually your autopilot kicks in. You're like, oh, I just need to log in. But if you just look at the site, like you're not logging into Office 365, the domain is being spoofed, you're somewhere else. That's how they get you. And now they have your username and password. If you're using MFA, this is less important because they still can't get in without that. But there are, a motivated hacker, there are ways to get around. So that's something to be aware of. And spear phishing, yeah, these are very targeted approaches. I would like to see CFOs or anybody in finance not on the web pages of a firm. That's what I would do. That's what I would really like to see. Like, do not have them on. But architecture firms do like to have all of their staff, their entire team up on their website. So if you do have to do that, a workaround would be if there's a naming convention for your firm. So first name at firm or first name dot, whatever that is, have it different for the CFO or anybody in accounts receivable. That's and anything that hits the usual typical naming convention for your firm, just have that go to another folder for harder review, because that means someone's being careless and they're sending to this. They could be legitimate and they would come through. That's fine. But that's just a really simple $0 thing that will help eliminate some level of these attacks. SSO, single sign-on, these are things you've probably seen them. Password one login, Duo, list goes on. These are really nice to stop password fatigue. Many people, you've seen that. You can log in when you sign up for a new software, log in with your Gmail account or your Office 365 account. These are great, and they are getting easier and easier to attach to software. Rhino, Bluebeam, a lot of these pieces of software, of course, Autodesk and others, you can attach that on the back end. And it's really nice to have that. It doesn't come up that much, but when it does, it's nice to have. There is the other side of the coin, of course. If something happens with that authentication service, now it's very difficult to get into any or all of these things. This did happen, I think, 2 or 3 years ago with Autodesk, that their AWS single sign-on was compromised, and people couldn't log in and use Autodesk for 2 days. It was a disaster. So it can, that's the downside of convenience. So convenience versus security are always at odds with each other. They're, never-ending battle. I'm going to remove myself for a second so you can see this. Typo squatting. I really love and hate this. It's clever as anything. So this is when a firm, again, so abc.com firm, they get compromised, or one of their vendors get compromised, and someone registers abd.com or something that looks very similar, and they'll capture an email from an email chain, and then they'll just reply to that, and it looks legitimate. This is usually a little bit of a longer con, so they usually send back and forth a couple more emails. So it kind of, the first one that comes through might get flagged as this isn't somebody you usually communicate with, and then they'll have a couple more emails back and forth before they say we're changing our bank records or here's the other invoice. And so a few of those come through. There is a simple way around this, which does take care of 99% of these. There is a software system that any domain that has been purchased in the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, you can actually set the time limit. Those go right to quarantine. So yeah, you might get, if there's a new firm, if a new up and comer starts a new firm and starts emailing you, you may not get those. You may have to whitelist those domains, but that does take care of such a huge amount of this issue. Quite inexpensive and very effective. So highly recommend that. But you will also get in at least Office 365, you will get an alert that says, this is not a person who you regularly take an email from to communicate with. You should take that to heart. When you get that flag, take a look at it. Take a harder look at it. Again, this is just training, and they're attacking you from multiple angles. Social engineering, that comes right in line with this. Can happen in so many ways. So social engineering is just they're just manipulating you. So they'll just they'll call you, they'll text you, they'll email you, and yeah, it's just you never know what their end goal is. Like, is this to get financial records? Is this to get information on your company? There's many influences on why they're doing this. Usually just to get information. Architecture firms, I think, are less susceptible to this than others, but these are quite sophisticated. So here's one that I saw, two that I saw that were quite interesting. They can have a suitcase that is a card reader, and all they would need to do is be within 10 feet of you, and they can read your access card, and they can copy it. In fact, they can get the access cards of everybody who walks through a lobby. So all of these places that do have these key cards, those are vulnerable to being copied, and you wouldn't even know it. So so that's out there. Also, people like to go to events, and architects are no exception. And you go to this event and you get your badge, and you post it, immediately online, like, hey, I'm at AIA 24, I'm at Autodesk University. And if they're targeting your firm, they will see what's on your firm's feed. And if you do post things like that, they can say, oh, Alan's in San Francisco. This is great. He's going to be really busy. We can fake that he needs something immediately and send it to, the new office manager, because we see the office manager has only been on LinkedIn for like a month or two. We can send her a request that I need this thing, those Walmart gift cards, I need those for Autodesk University. And that's one way that they'll just social engineer in combination with spear phishing. That's something to consider. It's a little exotic. You're really targeted if they do choose to do that. And last but not least, VPNs. VPNs are not inherently secure. People think they are. It's a secure tunnel. Not always. VPNs are virtual private networks. They're mostly secure. It's great for watching Netflix if you're somewhere else and you want to get, international streaming shows. VPNs are only as secure as the end server. So if you're buying it any of the myriad ones that you've heard on podcasts, whatever VPN service that they're pitching, that's not secure. It's just a tunnel to an endpoint. So it'll be secure from local, but that traffic is still, like, that endpoint can still see all of the traffic. So unless you're doing a VPN to your own system, VPNs are not inherently secure and really shouldn't be used for business purposes. Absolutely fine for entertainment. Go ahead. So here's some best practices. Oh, that turned out a little weird. All right, this should be a little different, but the formatting got off a little bit. So backups, that's what it always has come down to. 20 years ago, when I started this firm, it was all about the backups. And if you have solid backups, you're fine. You're going to be fine. So backups 3, 2, 1. That is not exactly a methodology, but this is a template for how firms should do backups, and then you'll be absolutely fine. I do have a little bit of a twist on this one, but 3 copies of your data. That's hard to do when when you have 40 terabytes of data. That's it's a little complicated, but if you have 40 terabytes, you hopefully will have many jobs in the pipeline to take care of that. Hard drive space is inexpensive, but cloud drive space is fairly expensive. So this 3, 2, 1 is achievable, but you just have to get a little bit fancy if you don't have like loads of funds to throw at this. So 3 copies of your backup. So have a local copy, have a cloud copy, and a third. So if anything happens, you have access. Different storage medias, yeah. So have it on a NAS or a local backup server, and have it in a completely different flavor of backup media, whether that be cloud-based or, I don't know, a USB that's across the country on another server that you can use a VPN for that to connect those two, and you'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. And again, the offsite, that's kind of in superseded by the 3 and the 2. If you do that, as long as you stack these and you have 3 copies, 2 different storage media, and at least 1 offsite, you're absolutely fine. We like to add a little bit more. We like to have like 2 different clouds. So a cloud that's for the client, and then our own copy as well. It gets a little pricey having that up there. But being able to sleep at night, knowing that the backups are absolutely secure. So, and I'm back. Not to necessarily throw shade, this just could be the reasons we were lucky to acquire certain clients. But in my 20 years of working with architecture firms, I've never once taken over an architecture firm that their backups were done correctly. It's never happened. And when I say done correctly, not only is it not adhering to the 3, 2, 1 backup strategy, they don't even have 1. So it was really bad. Like, they would have a very expensive, let's see, I don't want to be a little slanderous here, but it rhymes with Flatto. So they would have these very expensive server backup systems, very expensive, multiple thousands of dollars a month being paid for these systems. They weren't being backed up to the systems, full or incremental. these also had an online component, often not enough space. So if you had a 10 terabyte system, their local backup would only be 15 or 20. So that would be a full and many incrementals, but their cloud might only be 10, might be less. So they've never gotten a full backup to the cloud. The local backups were failing, never got up to the cloud. It's not good. And this is every single firm I've ever worked with. So there's a simple way to fix this. Trust but verify. Get the reports. Get the backup reports. Get them weekly. Backups fail all the time. Even with us, like we'll have backups being run, and you'll get the failure reports, but the failures aren't a failure of the entire backup. It's this file was opened. It wasn't able, this file was locked. We weren't able to, like, somebody's working on it at 2 a.m. We weren't able to get a copy, but it gets it the next day. So as long as you are reviewing those and making sure that you do have those, also drop a file. Just drop a file, an Excel file on somewhere on the server. Don't tell IT. Delete it after a week. Don't tell IT, and then ask them to recover it. Very simple. Low stakes, and if they can do it, great. And if they can't, you got a problem. But better to have the problem before it explodes in your face. So here's our MFA slide. So most architects, it's such a pleasure working with them. They're pretty sophisticated, pretty intelligent. We don't have to fight these battles mostly with them, but here you are with the best password is no password is what this slide says, but StreamYard's little banner is over it. Here, of course, are not great passwords. Passwords and this multi-factor is fairly secure. There are ways around this, but this is fairly secure. These are much better, of course. Microsoft Authenticator, Duo, Okta, any of these. Any of these software tokens, hardware tokens, one-time passwords, that's what OTP stands for, crazy acronyms. And then passwordless. So you'll sign in, it'll just blurp up on your phone. Hey, is this you? Punch in a number, no password. It's just authenticating. And then you go to passwordless. This is attached to your Office 365 account. We're not talking about Google or any of these other ones. This is mostly just Azure related. FIDO security keys, that's the previously mentioned USB FIDO key. And then you can do other certificate-based multi-factor, which is a little more exotic and really not worth the spend for architecture firms. Anything in this category, I'd say, is absolutely ideal and really quite easy to use and implement. And it's $0. So this is the response plan, incident response plans. And I'm going to have to hurry up. This is going faster than I thought. Incident response plans from IT firms. Who's responsible for what and how are we going to handle this and who are we going to talk to? Pretty dry. I mean, it makes sense, but this isn't how we like to attack this issue. We actually like to reverse it. So we like to see 3 different scenarios of an attack. Something mundane to medium to real, like Asheville, like looking at Asheville. If you were an architecture firm, what would happen if the entire town flooded and no power, nothing? You can't access it. You better have good backups. So backups in the cloud are great. It's not the end all be all because you still need to bring that down. And often, depending on the level, if you're saving money on your cloud storage, it's going to take a long time to get those things down. So if you're lucky, you're working with BIM 360 as well as many of your other files. So a lot of that is in the cloud. Or if you're on Ignite or LucidLink or things like that, you're already in the cloud, or most of your files are in the cloud. So let's take a look at, let's pretend this catastrophic thing happened. Now let's work backwards. So instead of going, let's decide a incident response team and then describe what might happen and then what kind of actions, reverse it. Reverse it. It's much easier to look at what needs to happen through that funnel. It makes the process a lot easier to do. What is the thing? What happened? How much is this affecting your end users? What are your projects? What are your primary projects that you need now? Can you recover those? Can you recover them quickly? Where are you going to put them? How are you going to get your end users to get access to them? How are you going to have your end users, assuming you're not completely cloud-based, are you on laptops and everybody brought them home and you're up and running? Do you have to get laptops to your end users? Do you have to connect it to these? So there's an entire set of events and going backwards really clarifies this. How many days? How many days can you stomach being down? 1, 0, 3 days, a week? Where are you on this that you can stomach being down? Not to say, if you say 2 days, we can be down for 2 days. Fine. Okay. That doesn't mean IT is sitting around for 2 days. We're starting the recovery immediately. And what are your primary projects? And something that does get overlooked a lot, the communication plan. How are you disseminating this information to staff? Who is going to be the team, the incident response team? How are you going to reach out to your clients and vendors about this situation? And it flows. It just flows really easily with this incident response plan. So I highly recommend that. Spend it's less than an hour. Just spend less than an hour. Go through this. You'll have it all planned out, and then just share that with everybody, and hopefully you'll never need it. So in conclusion, things aren't so bad for architecture firms. Congratulations. It's really not so bad. Have your backups, train your people. They're pretty smart already, and have policies in place so that you share information and not hide it. Keep IT informed. We love getting those, getting these emails that, hey, we need a technical arbiter on this one. Like, what's going on? It gives us new information often. Sharing that information allows us to create more strategies and tactics to deal with this. So do share the information. We're in this together. And yeah, and this is on us. Keep the systems patched. That's on IT. Backups and test recovery. That's collaboration. Enforce MFA. Yeah, you have to do this. You absolutely have to do this. Some firms really hate it, but you have to. Review your cyber insurance. Funny thing about cyber insurance, and I'm really going to try to wrap this up and keep it under an hour. Funny thing about cyber insurance policies, if you go through the entire checklist of what they want you to do, you don't even need cyber insurance. You still should get it. But if you do all of the things, have the backups and have the 3-2-1 and have MFA set up and have your network patched and have modern stuff, they're just saying do all of these things, kind of because they don't want to pay out. But there is one thing in cyber insurance checklist that you really should check to see if you have in your policy is a downstream incident. So if you say you are in Autodesk shop and for, again, AWS attack and stops you from logging into Autodesk, that should be in your policy. So vendors that you use that are upstream that are stopping you from working should be in your policy. User training, penetration, just keep doing it. It's almost $0. Gamify it. People have a lot of fun. You can not shame the people who got caught, but you can have like a leaderboard of who's the best at these penetration systems. And incident response document. just have it ready. If Asheville last week has shown us anything, just be prepared, and things will go pretty smoothly. So that's it. Thank you all for viewing this. This will be saved up on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. And if you want the deck, this PowerPoint deck, I can send it to anyone. And if you need any more help with a security review, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much. Oh, I didn't see anything in the chat. No, I didn't see anything come in. So that's why I kind of went on a few digressions. If anybody does need anything or has any questions, feel free to, reach out, and I will reach out to you offline. Thanks again, everyone. Bye. And stay safe.